Hi, I'm Marty Nemko. I was looking through my Twitter, now I guess they call it X, maybe to differentiate itself from previous owners, and I came upon an essay by Victor Davis Hanson. He is senior fellow at Stanford's Hoover Institution. And this little essay, I was very taken by it, and I thought you would benefit from it or enjoy it. Anyway, it's called Harvard's President Gay Resigns. As I wrote here earlier, it was inevitable that Claudine Gay would eventually step down. A while back, we listed reason number 1 of 10 why she would resign. Quote, Harvard can claim to be America's preeminent university or have a plagiarist as its president, but not both, end quote. To paraphrase Churchill, Harvard had an initial choice between a scandal and dishonor. It chose dishonor, and now it will have scandal. The latest 6 allegations of plagiarism, now totaling some 24, if they were to be further excused, ignored, or contextualized, would have continued to have made a mockery of Harvard's own codes on intellectual theft, given 1, her plagiarism was not sporadic, but characteristic, systematic, and serial, dating back to her PhD dissertation. 2, it was not a matter of rephrasing the work of others, which in itself is often deemed, especially by Harvard plagiarism, even when cited, but rather word-for-word expropriation. 3, she was not, quote, proactive, as she earlier had claimed in addressing the allegations, but reactive. On the occasion of a new accusation, she habitually insisted she had adhered to the highest standards of scholarship, until she hadn't. And her growing history of plagiarism made such assertions preposterous, and exposed the Harvard Corporation that swallowed them as itself ethically compromised. What follows? If Harvard appoints as its permanent president another candidate on the basis of DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, without a record of substantial scholarship, intellectual probity, recognized teaching, and administrative excellence, then the university will only reinforce the now growing consensus that it has abandoned even the veneer of meritocracy. And the institution will thus continue on its current Target Disney Bud Light trajectory. Its salvation at this nadir is to select a preeminent scholar and nonpartisan, and have most of the current board members and fellows of the Harvard Corporation resign, especially the partisan chairwoman/senior fellow for incompetence, if not worse. The members' official media release concerning the Gay resignation continued to show blind hubris through tisking the very unethical behavior that got Gay in trouble in the first place, while pro forma adding the charge of racism. But did racism explain why Pennsylvania President Liz McGill also resigned, with Gay, one of the 3 college presidents who shocked the nation, by testifying to Congress that they really would do little, if anything, to students and faculty who called for the genocide of Jews and the destruction of Israel? Finally, what is one to make of this paragraph from Harvard's current public announcement of Gay's resignation? We do so with sorrow. While President Gay has acknowledged missteps and has taken responsibility for them, it is also true that she has shown remarkable resilience in the face of deeply personal and sustained attacks. While some of this is played out in the public domain, much of it has taken the form of repugnant and in some cases racist vitriol directed at her through disgraceful emails and phone calls. We condemn such attacks in the strongest possible terms. Are we to believe that President Gay leaves mostly because of, quote, deeply personal and sustained attacks and, quote, racist vitriol, and not her decades-long habit of passing off the intellectual work of others as her own? Well, aside from her misleading congressional testimony that it was her commitment to free speech that had prevented her from acting against clear anti-Semitic activity at her university? Note, in Harvard's world, plagiarism became, quote, duplicative language, and now it is euphemized further as, quote, missteps. Once more, Gay never took responsibility for them, but in the face of damning evidence on each case, claimed she had always adhered to the highest standards of scholarship and was now, quote, proactively addressing her plagiarism. In fact, she corrected plagiarism only when called out, and always in a reactive fashion. As far as the public domain snark, Harvard could retain its privacy in addressing its compromised president by simply not accepting federal research monies, paying the IRS income tax on its huge endowment annual income, not accepting federal guaranteed student loan tuition money, and thus freeing itself from us, the tax-paying rubes of the, quote, public domain. Anyway, that little essay was written today in light of President Claudine Gay's resignation as the president of the nation's University of Record, or maybe the world's University of Record, the ultra-prestigious, at least formerly ultra-prestigious. It'll survive. Harvard has 300 years. It will survive Claudine Gay and DEI. Anyway, it was written by Victor Davis Hanson, senior fellow at Stanford's Harvard, I keep doing that, at Stanford's Hoover Institution. As usual, I welcome your thumbs up and accept your thumbs down. I always look forward to your comments and especially like it if you hit the share button below. Share on your social media so that my efforts can have broader impact. And I am flattered if you choose to subscribe to my channel. And in any event, of course, I do wish you a good and ethical New Year. I am Marty Nemko.